Hey, it's Heidi McGurk. I'm really glad you're here. As a master coach and addiction professional, I used to be head faculty at one of the world's leading drug and alcohol treatment centers where I did psychoeducational lectures and ran group therapy. And with my husband, created and ran a family program there for the course of 8 years. And hundreds of families would come in through that program month after month, all different kind of aspects of addiction. Some brand new to it, and some had been one their first rodeo, been dealing with it for a long time. But they all kind of had one question at the end of the day. And the question was always some version of, how did this happen? And it wasn't like they were just asking the question, how does addiction happen? Although that's, of course, what they wanted to know. But it was more kind of like, how did this happen to us? How did we get here? We thought we did all the right things. We thought we had a pretty good family. Of course, there were some bumps along the road, but overall, we're good people. How does this happen to good families and good people? Well, you're in luck today because that's exactly what we're going to talk about. And because I had such a strong desire to answer this question, because it's such an important question, because if you can't answer it, you're left kind of scrambling to figure out what you did wrong and what went wrong. So let's clear up some myths. We're going to understand the 4 risk factors that likely set up addiction for every single person on the planet. And then we're going to talk about exactly how this happened to good people, to good families. By the way, if you want another additional free resource, head over to helpingversushurting.com, helpingvshurting.com, and download your free checklist, am I helping or hurting? And again, that's going to give you even more insight into the war that you're in, that can feel like you're in a war without weapons. It's maddening, right? Range of feelings that you're experiencing, all the way from anxiety to overwhelmed. If you've been dealing with it for a while, just numb. You could just be like at your wit's end, wondering when's it going to be over or how to get out of this. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about some myths about addiction that are really like still going around today, even though we have all of the science and all of the information. And again, I just want to give a caveat here. There are still arguments out there, right? Like with any kind of psychological or biological component with a psychological component, there are going to be questions and people kind of arguing against each other. But I'm going to bring you the latest interpersonal neurobiology from well-respected scientists. I'm going to bring you the perspective that we held as we worked on a team of esteemed PhDs, psychologists, psychiatrists, master level clinicians, and put all of our heads together and came up with some of the best information. And so that's what you're in for today, all right? Number 1, addiction runs in the family, that it's genetic. So here's the truth about addiction. Addiction, when they do the research and the studies, what people find is about 50% of the people who are addicted have it in their family tree somewhere. And about 50% of the people who are addicted do not have it in their family tree somewhere. So it's not like when we say, well, you're going to be an alcoholic because your dad was an alcoholic or your grandpa was an alcoholic. That's just really doing such a disservice to somebody. It's putting the limitation on them. It's putting their fate in some kind of script and say, well, that's just the way it's going to go. But the reality is that's really not the way that it goes, okay? Number 2, so if you don't have it in your family, you're like, well, I don't know where this came from. And then you're talking to your partner. It must be your side of the family. Yeah, your side, not my side, okay? The second myth is that trauma creates addiction. So you could spend your whole experience going, where's the trauma? What's the thing that happened to the person? The big significant thing that happened that created this whole mess? And you could search and say, we had a pretty good life. They had a pretty good life. I don't really understand. So trauma does not necessarily create addiction. Let me tell you why, okay? Let me give you the argument, all right? 2 twin girls can grow up in a traumatic household. The dad's a raging alcoholic. The mom is out to cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, abusive, dysfunctional. They are subjected to significant amounts of abuse and dysfunction. And when they grow up, this twin daughter will grow up to be an alcoholic. She'll get in relationships with people that abuse her and hurt her. She won't have much purpose in life. This sister will grow up and she'll become a pillar of society. She'll attract a partner that loves and respects and cares for her, and she has a purpose in her life, and she's a non-drinker. So when you ask these 2 girls, you say, hey, why'd you turn out the way you turned out? What do you think they'll tell you? They're going to give you the exact same answer. They're going to say, it's the way I grew up. This one will say, well, my dad was an alcoholic, so I'm an alcoholic, and my mom beat me, so I pick people who beat me. And this one will say, well, my dad was an alcoholic, and that's why I don't drink. Okay, and my mom was abusive, and that's why I don't settle for that in my relationships today. Addiction is one response to trauma. It's a response to trauma, but so is success for many people a response to trauma. So even we could have trauma in somewhere in our family dynamic, that is not the only predictor or indicator that addiction is the only path. People cope with trauma multiple ways. And now we can get deeper into a nature versus nurture discussion, right? Well, if I don't know how to cope and I never learn how to cope, then I'm going to, do what I see, right? I'm going to, like, if other people are coping with trauma and stress a certain way, then I'm going to fall into that pattern. If I have what if I don't have any examples of success in my life, right? That's what I'm saying. The socioeconomic kind of inferences about people not having access to all the world's coping mechanisms, and that could be true, and that could be part of the bigger picture dynamic, right? Why we don't develop achievement as a success tool, as a coping mechanism tool versus addiction. But however, not to oversimplify it, but just to point out there are multiple responses in life to trauma. Oprah is a really good example of her trauma response. Okay, overachieving, high achieving, success. And so although trauma in itself is not the issue, the coping is the issue. And as it happens, that's what really addiction is, right? At the end of the day. So those are the myths. Runs in the family, and that trauma necessarily creates it. You could have no trauma in your family dynamic, in fact, and still become addicted. And it doesn't run in the family. Here's what you need to know. Every single human being on the planet has the addiction gene. What that means is every single human being on the planet has the propensity and potential to become an addict. Because what happens is when we have that gene, what turns it on is habit. So you're not born addicted. Nobody has a first drink of something and because it runs in their family, they can't quit and they're born addicted. Everybody comes to addiction the exact same way through training and habitual use. Nobody is addicted the first time that they do anything. They might have found an excellent coping mechanism the first time, the holy grail coping, and they feel like they're addicted, but nobody's addicted the first time. And research has shown that people who think they're born with an addictive personality is not true either. Okay, addictive personality is what you develop through your addiction. You take on an addicted personality. All right, you're not woken up, I just can't have anything because I want it all. And nobody comes out of the womb and makes it through the birth canal and comes out and goes, again, more, that's really not how this thing works. All right. Everything that we take on in life, for the most part, is a habituation and an elongated exposure to something that works. And then we go, okay. So I'm going to explain that in more detail. Let's talk about, there are 4 risk factors, in fact, that do set people up for addiction. There are people that are more highly susceptible, okay, that they have these 4 risk factors, and they don't. That's a recipe for disaster. Let's go over those now. So the first one is highly sensitive. Okay, meaning the people that become addicted, research shows these people are highly sensitive. They feel things more deeply than the average person. In fact, they just have like this sensitivity about them that sees most things that people don't, can hear things most people don't, have access to surroundings more than other people. And things bother this person more than the average bear. You might have noticed as a child, it's just like they were highly reactive or sensitive to everything around them. The second thing that we want to notice in this person is they have a low stress tolerance. Before addiction, remember, this is what kind of sets us up for addiction, a low stress tolerance. So what we all have like a stress bucket, and we have the water faucet of stress that leaks into it. Now, a person who's susceptible to addiction has a very low stress tolerance. Their bucket gets fuller much, much quicker. And they tend to not be able to handle stress very well. And they'll handle it by exploding or imploding or numbing and just kind of shutting down. Number 3, and this is really important, little to no coping skills. And this is where it's nature versus nurture. This is nature, right? This is like, I'm a highly sensitive person, I have a low stress tolerance, But then when you throw in the little to no coping skills, okay, that's when I don't have a way to cope and I look around and I see what other people are doing. What's going on in my family dynamic as a kid? Are people getting frustrated and going for a run? Or are people going frustrated and cracking a beer or smoking pot? Are people taking an Ativan, or are people talking about their feelings? What's going on in my family? And that'll be a really good indicator of how I'm going to do it, all right? Because of my exposure to what's available to me. Number 4, and this is the one we're going to focus on. This ultimately is what sets people up for addiction, no matter who they are, where they come from, or what their situation is, and this is an unfulfilled life. What I want you to remember right now is addiction is a lame attempt to be happy. It's a lame attempt at happiness. It's not something somebody sets out one day and says, you know what would be great? I would love to ruin my family. I'd love to bring shame upon my name. I would love to do things I thought I'd never do, wake up in strange places and get myself into predicaments I can't get out of. That nobody wakes up having the urge to F up, all right? But what happens is we do have an urge to be happy. We all have an urge to be happy. So let's talk about that leading interpersonal neurobiology, Dr. Dan Siegel, who is a great pioneer of the mind-body connection. And when he does this example of the brain, and he dumbs it down, and I love it because we can all get it, okay? But I'm going to kind of adapt his work to addiction. So let's examine our brain first of all. So we just put our little hands out like this, put our little palm in the middle, and close it down, and this is our brain, all right? So if we open our hand up, this is the upstairs part of the brain, or we're going to refer that to that upstairs as the neocortex, the frontal lobe, right? We're just going to say thinking. Whoops. That's my massage chair that my cat got in. Do you think she could turn it on by herself? Kind of creepy. Okay. Thinking part of the brain is up here, all right? And that would be the upstairs part of the brain. The downstairs part of the brain in the palm is what we call the reptilian, or the instinctual part of the brain. And this is an oversimplification, but again, we're trying to keep it easy, okay? So that just for the purposes of what we're discussing today. Of course, the brain is much more complex, but we want to simplify it for the purposes of what we're doing today, and it works. In the mid part of the brain here is going to be, where the thumb is going to be the limbic system, or the feelings, okay? So think, feel, instinct. Think, feel, instinct, basic instinct, fight, flight, freeze, or faint. In a normal functioning brain, we have the ability to develop a developed neocortex can talk us out of all kind of crazy things all day long that live down here in the downstairs part of the brain. This is where our irrational impulses live, our kind of, I want what I want when I want it kind of things. And, maybe you're driving in traffic and you feel the need to like get out of your car and strangle somebody who's cut you off, or in its most drastic forms, we can say and do some pretty crazy things sometimes. But the reason we don't is the instinct happens and the upstairs part of the brain goes, shh, 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 calm down, girl. Calm down, boy. We're not going to do that today. And it overrides and rationalizes and thinks things through, because the cognitive ability up here to make sense of why we not supposed to do the things we don't want to do. So when we talk about developing brain, when somebody is a toddler, if you've ever had a toddler, you'll remember, where do they live? Upstairs brain or downstairs brain? Downstairs brain, right? They want what they want when they want it. They want it now. They have no ability to think things through. So what happens, let's say if you're at Target and the kid wants a present or wants something, a toy, and you say no and they want it so bad, a tantrum ensues, right? They throw themselves on the floor, they kick their legs, they scream. They're all downstairs brain. What if I as a mother walked over and said, now listen, Sally, we're in the store, and whenever you behave that way, what you're doing is taking away your ability to have a toy the next time. And they're screaming bloody murder on the floor, throwing a tantrum, throwing to it. Now, Sally, if you could just look down the road at your behavior, we can see that's ridiculous. But whenever we're dealing with somebody in addiction, what we're going to understand at the end of this little session today is addiction also lives where? Upstairs brain or downstairs brain? Think about how they behave when they're addicted. Think about all the crazy things. Downstairs brain. And so when you then say, look at what you're doing to the family. Don't you see this is killing you? Can't you think your way out of this? You're smarter than that. Ain't nobody home up here in addiction. Addiction is like, we have the ability to think things through. What happens in addiction is the downstairs part of the brain that just wants happiness. It just wants to get satisfied. It's where the hedonistic part of ourself is. It just is a pleasure seeker. Two things: seek pleasure, avoid pain. Seek pleasure, avoid pain. That's all this wants. And it says, have some drugs, have a little Ativan, have some weed, have a drink. And eventually what'll happen is this part of the brain will be like, oh man, but this isn't really a good idea. And the downstairs will override it, be like, shut up. But don't you think? And then goes, oh, we're not thinking today. Okay. But isn't this about, brother, go to sleep? And what happens is eventually this part of the brain, the neocortex, gets weaker and weaker, and its ability to overpower the downstairs, but the downstairs is running the show. And then nobody's home. In fact, you probably have witnessed this when you're with your loved one. You're like, are you in there? Are you in there? Nobody's home, right? You've said this to your loved one. Where are you? I know you're in there somewhere. The reason that you don't know that they're in there is because they've lost their mind. And the mind, in the sense, I think, therefore I am. When you're with an addict or somebody who's lost their mind, you can see they've lost their ability to think. In fact, you might say, you're not thinking. No kidding. Nobody's thinking. And so we want to stop appealing to the part of the brain that's sleeping. All right? Got me? Roger that? Okay. Let's move on. You can even pause this video and just take some notes and digest that part. Or again, if you want to deepen your understanding, two things: go to helpingvshurting.com and download your free checklist, or join my husband's free Facebook support group called Families Dealing with Addiction. And in that group, we're able to, we give free trainings all the time. You have access to it, okay? And ask your questions as well. It's a private, safe community where you can be seen if you want to, all right? And then you can send us a message if you want to talk a little deeper. But now I want to talk to you about how addiction actually happens, and we want to focus on this unfulfilled life, because why is this so important for you to know? Because once you know this, you actually know what recovery looks like. You actually know what we're doing this whole thing for, and how to give your loved one the best shot at being sober for the rest of their lives. All right, and that's what we want, right? We want them to get it and be on the way and create the life that we know they really deserve. Let's talk about how we can do that. So again, this is your brain. The downstairs part of the brain just wants to be happy. Give me happiness, give me happiness. And let's think of all the ways in life that somebody can have happiness. What brings you joy? What brings you fulfillment? Well, likely your family brings you fulfillment once upon a time. If it's not bringing you fulfillment now, it did, right? Once upon a time. Maybe your intimate relationships. Maybe your social life brings you happiness. This marker's not the best. Your social circle brings you the happiness. Maybe your mission or purpose in life brings you the happiness, and that lights you up. Maybe your spirituality lights you up, brings you joy. Maybe your physical health. Maybe you're giving back. We have all these different areas of life. Life is a buffet, right? Most people are starving. Who said that? Mae West. Because we don't understand all of that's there for us, all the different streams, multiple streams of happiness. We all think of multiple streams of income, but we don't think of multiple streams of happiness, okay? Success in life is one stream. Purpose or mission or wealth or whatever is one stream. There are many. But let's say one day a developing part of the brain, it could be a teenager, it could be an adult, it could be anybody at all. It doesn't have to be an age. You could become an addict at 46. I'll explain how. Oh my gosh, this never happened before. All of a sudden I'm drinking my face off. What is happening here? I'll tell you. So the downstairs part of the brain sends a signal to the upstairs and goes, man, I want some happiness. And then it says, hey, why don't you go ahead and have a drink? You'll feel better. Now, I just want to do a caveat. I could put Ativan in here, weed, anything at all. I could put, any substance at all whatsoever, food, sex, anything in here can become an addiction. Process addictions, anything at all. It's all the same. We could be talking about eating disorders here. We could be talking about gambling. We could talk about anything at all, but I'm just going to use alcohol, but it all works the same. I really want you to know that there's not a big difference. There's a difference to the people who do the drug, right? They're drug of choice, but there's addiction is addiction is addiction. Okay. Some people might disagree with that, but I know after 8 years working with thousands of clients day in and day out, from heroin to Ativan, or that, you know, had a heroin to a couple wine a night, it's all the same. Okay. So the reason that it's important for us to know that it's all the same is because the stigma of like, oh God, well my son does heroin. Oh God, thank God my wife's only drinking too much wine. And so we start to get into these discussions about whose addiction is better. Well, I'm not that bad. Well, they're not really that bad. It's just a little pot, or it's just gay video games. Thank God it's not heroin. It's just video games. It's all the same. And when we don't treat it the same, we don't get the same help. We don't get the same, we don't do what we need to do to get people better because we're like minimizing what's really going on. Thank God it's not that bad. Or we don't get help because we're so shameful that it is that bad. It is heroin. It is whatever. Holy shit. Then we're petrified to do anything because we don't want to tell anybody what's really going on. Look, it's all the same. And let me tell you something else. It is the principal. If it's not the principal's kid, it is your physician. It is, okay? It's everybody. It is the teacher. It is the grocery store clerk. It is the garbage man. It is every single person on the planet that can become addicted. It doesn't care about how much money you have. It doesn't care about your pedigree. It doesn't care about anything at all. How many trips you took on vacation as a family. It just cares, like, are we getting used to the point where we become dependent? All right? So let's say one day this person has a drink and it travels down and it feels pretty good. Now, different drugs addiction can happen quicker with because of the amount of dopamine, the neurotransmitters of well-being, flood into the brain, and it feels so good. So if I have a drink, I'm going to increase my dopamine a certain percentage, right? 150% or whatever it is. If I have an opiate, I'm going to increase it 750%. If I have crack, cocaine, I'm going to increase it 1200%. So I'm getting a massive shot of dopamine. So that's why I say I was addicted instantly. What that means is I felt such a rush, I fell in love right away, okay? And so that's how that can happen even quicker. But what happens when it wears off? It goes more. So drink wears off, dopamine wears off, the brain goes, we need some more happiness. It goes, have a drink, up to the upstairs part of the brain. In a normal brain, it goes, no, you had enough. You know, after 2 or 3 drinks, like a normie, okay, a normal person, nah, you've had enough. You got to work in the morning. Your kids are going to watch it get stupid, you know, whatever it is. But what happens in this part of the brain down here is this person is able to continue to drink because they'll say, well, they'll tell it to take a back seat. And here's why. This person who's normal can say no after 2 or 3, but they still want to be happy. But what they have that the addict, the possible addict doesn't have, because nobody's born addicted, but the potential addict has, is this person will say, I still want to be happy, but they'll say, okay, why don't I go make love to my partner? All right, why don't I go talk to my partner? Or why don't I go get with some of my friends? Or why don't I work on that project at work? That'll make me happy. Or why don't I get with my family? Or why don't I go work out? Or why don't I meditate or pray? So you likely don't become addicted, and why you can look at your college buddy who drank just as much as you did as much drugs as you did, and they're like in treatment every 5 minutes, and you're like a lawyer. You're like, I don't know what happened there. What happened there is you had more sources of happiness in your life and more ways to deal with the stress of your life. So this person will say, hey, I want to have another drink. The brain will go, that's a bad idea. Why don't you go be with your partner? And they'll go, what partner? That relationship sucks. That's a sham. I don't even know if they want to be with me. But when I have a drink, I can forget about that. Or they'll say, why don't you get with your family? And say, oh, but they don't really understand what's going on. I don't want to tell them what's really happening in my life. You know, I don't really want to be open and honest about what's going on. Let me just have another drink instead. Well, why don't you work on the mission or purpose at work? Well, I don't really have anything that fulfills me. I don't love what I'm doing. I feel empty there. But when I have a drink, I don't notice. You know, I could put a pill in there. Well, why don't you play with your kids, Karen? Why don't you go, when I take my pills, I can play with my kids. Well, honey, why don't you make love to your partner? Well, because whenever I have intimacy issues, but when I have a couple drinks, I can have sex with the lights on or do whatever, okay? What I want you to understand is drugs and alcohol fix problems. They don't create them at first. Drugs and alcohol are a lame attempt to have the thing that you think that someone thinks everybody else has that they don't. When somebody starts drinking and doing drugs at first, it actually makes their life better from their perspective. That's why they do it. So what's happening here is instead of them saying, well, I don't have an intimate relationship, And it sucks. Remember, they also have these other risk factors. So they're already unfulfilled in these areas, but then they have little to no coping skills. They don't know to hire a coach to help them with their relationships. They'll just drink. It's easier. They have a low stress tolerance. So what most people think is like a normal relationship to them is really they're in pain. Okay, they're very lonely, where other people are just like moderately lonely, bothered. They're devastated by things. Drinking numbs that out. They're highly sensitive people. They feel things more deeply in their areas. So you could look and say, well, that's bull. They have a family, they have a career, but remember, their sensitivity and their coping is very different than yours. So what you might think is great is actually a source of significant pain for them somewhere that the medicating happened. So this is what sets us up for addiction, even to good people. Now, how addiction happens is, though, they continue to use, and the areas that used to provide some level of dopamine and happiness stop producing it, because now I'm getting it synthetically. So the brain starts to rely on the drug or the drink in order to feel not just good at some point, but actually normal. And then they're looking at their lives, and no happiness comes from anything else, and only happiness comes from the thing. And now we're asking these people to stop using the thing that is actually their only support, only source of what they think is happiness. And they really truly believe that, because they've made a connection in their brain. They've trained their brain that the drug equals happiness, even in the evidence of pain. The training is set, the wiring is there, and they have created a new synapse in their brain that equals drugs equal happiness, drugs equal happiness. And even in the face of evidence to the contrary, they are actually, that's why it hijacks the brain. It becomes like a cult almost. If you ever, like, addiction works similarly in the brain like a cult does. It isolates you. It pumps you full, it deprives you of food and sleep, and does all the things that a cult leader would do. We'll do another video on that. It's just my theory, but it really looks a lot alike. So I want you to know that eventually they continue to use, and this is the only source of happiness. And then addiction is a break in the brain. Addiction is permanent and irreparable brain damage to a part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens, which actually is in the reward pathway, which links up control and consequences. And so that part of the brain then is like a switch that's flipped on or flipped off, or however you want to look at it. And what happens is, at that point, there is no control, right? It's not like they might think they're in control of it, but they're really not. They're just constantly either detoxing, getting ready to use, coming down from using, plotting to use again. And it becomes a compulsion at this point. And, the thing about addiction, too, is I just want to mention, a lot of people will say to me, well, did they break their brain? Is there a brain scan? Can we set up my child? What is it? I'll pay whatever it is. Just hook them up to the machine. Let's see if their brain is broken, and we know if they're addicted. If you're asking the question, and if the clients are asking the question, how do I know if my brain's broken? You're there. Because is it ruining your life? All right? We're not going to ask, are you addicted? Are you paying consequences in your life? Are you constantly being addressed by other people? Say, hey, man, we think something's wrong. We think you might have a drinking problem. We think something's going on here. What is the cost on your life, on their life? What's the reality of it? We're not getting into the diagnosis necessarily so that we can take some action. Do you feel bad? Is it taking a toll on you? I could have played that game too. I was a binge drinker. So I had a big reason to be like, I'm not really an addict, I'm just like binging on the wine. Thank God. I was one of those. Well, it's just wine and Ativan and occasionally some, Vicodin or something like that. So, okay. But the truth was, I was waking up with shame in the morning, forgetting who I texted, what I said, what I did. I was full of shame. I open my eyes and have shame before I even open my eyes. Trying to piece the night back together and remember. And then I go like 2 weeks and say, I'm not going to drink again. Thank God. But it was just to like recover from the shame hangover. Okay. And then I'd drink again. And so, but I would rationalize, well, I'm not drinking every day, so I must not be an addict. I'm not. But the reality was, it was destroying my life and my relationships. But here's the compassionate piece. I was drinking for a darn good reason. Okay, we could look at me and say, drinking's really destroying you. Wow, it's really making you feel it's like a terrible human. Why are you doing this? Because for me, it medicated a lot of areas of my life. It medicated, in my intimate relationships were a disaster. I was in relationships with people that were emotionally unavailable. I had unhealed family business that I need to address. I really didn't have a deep spiritual connection that I really believed in, that was real, you know. I didn't have a mission or purpose at that time. I was a business consultant, an international business consultant. I was making a lot of money, but I felt used. I was getting on a plane 4 times a week, flying from city to city. I felt empty. March into a corporate office, make the company millions of dollars, come home, drink my face off. I was living a double life. From the outside looking in, people could say, your life looks really great. But again, what I want you to understand is, so can they say that about your loved one? Wow, you can say that. Man, they have the job, they have the wife, they have the kids, they have the stuff, they have the scholarship, they have the thing, they have a good life. What's going on? This. Somewhere in your child or spouses or whoever you're watching this video about life, they're highly sensitive people that's unresolved. They don't know how to manage their sensitivity. Likely because of that sensitivity, they have a lot of anxiety, maybe some other feelings in there that they need to learn how to manage. They have a low stress tolerance. They feel things and they don't know how to get out of it, okay? They need to learn how to manage their emotions, how to process their emotions and deal with their emotions. Even if you look at them and say they don't feel anything at all, they're like a bird. That's this also, by the way. They don't have to be highly expressive to have a low stress tolerance. Some people just fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fake. Okay? Little to no coping skills. This is something that you can look and witness. You can say, oh, they have no way to cope. These are coping skills, by the way, with life. You know, a spirituality is a coping skill. A physical health is a coping skill. A relationship can be coping for the other. And if I have an unfulfilled life, that's these areas for sure. All right? That's those areas for sure. So what does recovery look like? The broken part of the brain never repairs itself. It never heals. That's why when you're an addict, okay, you're addicted for the rest of your life, because that part of the brain never repairs itself. It doesn't heal. If it did, that'd be great, right? But that's why when people, like, unless you're a unicorn, have a real hard time using responsibly again. You know, but why would we want to get into that game? Well, let me try to be sober and just smoke pot and not drink. That's how we know we're in trouble. It's like if I told you I had an allergy to peanut butter, and you're like, well, what about chunky peanut butter? What about a Reese cup? Everybody knows that's not real peanut butter. You know, you try to negotiate with me how you're going to eat the damn peanut butter. That's addiction. You got a peanut butter problem, bro. Okay? Same is true for addiction. If we're like, well, maybe I'll just have wine and not Jägermeister. Okay? We're trying to. So the reality is, let's take it all off the table and see if we cannot create a fulfilling life. And that's what recovery is. Recovery looks like developing our relationships to bring us happiness, developing our social life to bring us happiness, developing our mission or purpose to bring us happiness, and then we bypass the part, and then we're fulfilled. We create new synapses in the brain. We create new pathways to happiness. And the thing is that for a lot of people, actually, I want to say, right now especially, this social piece is a big issue for a lot of people. Because right now, and Johann Hari, who I really love, there's a really great book called Lost Connections that really deepens this, is partially based on, we line up with the same work, okay? So partially based on this kind of model, but much deeper. He has 9 different areas of fulfillment. And he talks about connection. There's a video that's a really great resource called Everything You Think About Addiction Is Wrong by Johann Hari. Check that out. We'll link some of these free resources for you so that you can deepen your understanding. But recovery looks like, for me, building these areas up, figuring out where the deficits are and going to work in our lives. And there aren't any shortcuts. Like people say recovery is about just don't pick up, just don't drink, just stop using. You might have said that to your loved one too, just don't use. That's like saying just take away the only thing that's actually working for me, even though it's not working. That's not what life's about. And life's too long to be miserable just not using, right? We want to have a replacement. The desire for the happiness, when you take the alcohol and drugs off the table, you leave a gaping hole. It's got to be filled up somewhere, or then you're just going to feel empty and miserable and meaningless. All right? For you, you get addicted to them, right? You're up here. They're your drug of choice. This little person, your spouse, your child, whoever. You run to the rescue, run to the rescue, run to the rescue. And what happens is your intimate relationships are suffering. You can't talk to your spouse about anything unless it deals with this person. Your social life, you don't tell your friends what's going on. All right? You don't tell them what's happening. You know, it's because you're embarrassed or whatever. Your mission or purpose is to save this person. You have other family members, but they wouldn't know it because all your attention and time is here with this person. And so your physical health is declining because of this. You pray, but only about this person. And so what happens is you get addicted to them. And then it's this vicious cycle. So what's true for everybody is we all need to detox from this situation and figure out, if you do want to help this person and you have been here, let me help them in the best possible way. Schedule a strategic discovery session where we hear about your situation and give you a very strategic, specific action plan of what to do. Join the free group, go over to Families Dealing with Addiction, post your questions in there, get active, send me a message, download the Helping vs Hurting checklist, and start to get in the know about some things. But here's what I want to say. Like the social connection, like Johan Hari was saying, is like a parody of social connection today with social media. With It's a parody of it. It's not real. It's just like a pretend. And so people are feeling that disconnection more than ever from each other. And so what we really need to do, and Johan Hari says the opposite of addiction, is connection. It's finding a way to connect, not just to other people, but to our own lives and the things in our lives that bring us joy and happiness. And I want that for you, and I want that for your loved one, and I want us all to heal. This is an epidemic, right? This is everywhere. This is every family. But hopefully today, this has shed some light for you on how this could happen to you. How this happened to you. Good family. Of course, you might have made some mistakes along the way. Haven't we all? But at the end of the day, this is how this happens. Go back, watch the video again, take notes, message me your question, leave your comments. If you're wanting to be anonymous, just send me a message. Just join the group on Facebook and look me up, Heidi Rain McGurk. All right, I love you. Take excellent care, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.